Okay, we're looking at the next Hebrew feast, which will be Yom Kippur, which is on our calendar. From today, it'll be not tomorrow, which is Wednesday, but the following Wednesday, the 23rd, will be Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, and the word, and we're looking at Leviticus 23:26. It says, on exactly the 10th day of the 7th month is the Day of Atonement, and you shall have a holy assembly or church. And it goes on in verse 29, if there's any person who will not humble himself on that day, he will be cut off from his people. As for any person who does any work on that day, that person I will destroy from among his people. That's how important this day is to God. You shall do no work. It shall be a perpetual statute throughout your generations in all your dwelling places. It is to be a Sabbath of complete rest, and you shall humble your souls. Humble your souls. What does that mean? It means to fast. You know, the F word, no food. What they do, and what was called for then, was no food or water for that one day. Humbling your souls. Humbling your souls. God says it shall be a complete rest. You will do nothing on this day but atone. It's the Day of Atonement. Other names for the Day of Atonement are the Sabbath of Sabbaths. Okay, it is that high a Sabbath. It is the Sabbath of Sabbath. Another interesting term, instead of Yom Kippur, is Yom HaKippurim, which, if you remember, with the "im" makes it plural. So this becomes the Day of Atonements, because Jewish custom is that it's not only atonement for the living, but for the dead. That's just their custom. Just to, you know, I'm just saying. I'm not, you know, I'm just saying that's what they call it. The Day of Atonement is the climax of a 40-day period. Remember, I said that the actual repentance starts on the 1st of Elul, which is 30 days before Tishri. So you got those 30 days, and then you got the 10 days from Tishri to the 10th of Tishri as the days of all coming to Yom Kippur. So there's 40 days to examine yourself. And it goes all the way through until Yom Kippur. Now, I talked about the days of awe. We're right now in the days of awe. Okay, from the 1st of Tishri to the 10th of Tishri are days of awe. And here's what they're about. One of the ongoing themes of the days of awe is a concept that God has books that He writes your name in, writing down who will live and who will die, who will have a good life and who will have a bad life for the next year. These books are written in on Rosh Hashanah, but our actions during the days of awe can alter God's decree. That's why there's a call for 30 days. Get right before we get there, okay? The actions that change the decree are teshuvah, which means repentance, tefillah and tzedakah, which is prayer and good deeds, usually charity. These books are sealed on Yom Kippur. This concept of writing in the books is a source of the common greeting during this time. May you be inscribed and sealed for a good year. Yom Kippur, the books are closed, judgment is over. Now, keep hold of that. Keep hold of that phrase, because we're going to talk about that again. But these are days. Now, they believe that the books are open on Rosh Hashanah and God writes your name in. Psalm 139 seems to indicate that God wrote in the book before you were born. And what happens is, if we don't accept Jesus as Lord, He erases us out of the book. Now, there's another indication too that at judgment there will be books, plural, that will be opened. And so it's possible that these are books of deeds. And if you're a Christian, you're not going to be judged whether heaven or hell. That only occurs to people that don't accept Jesus as Lord. But we will be judged for our deeds. So if I can say it, our crown will be determined by our works. Did we follow Jesus? Did we do what He asked us to do? You know, were we good to the poor, to the needy, to the orphan, to the widow? You know, did we give? And we're going to have to stand before the Lord and listen to our life and what we didn't accomplish. And since everything is over, you see, once you die, it's all over. Once you die, it's all over. You have until you take your final breath to change your life, to accept Jesus as Lord, and to do what He's called you to do. And to walk, if I can use this, as sinless a life as possible. Technically, we should be able to do that. But we have this tendency to want to do it my way, and so we sin. But we don't have to. You are not a sinner saved by grace anymore. You were a sinner and you were saved by grace, but you're now a child of God. You are a joint heir with Jesus. And so it's not the same. And so this concept of being a sinner, we've got to get beyond. We're children of God and we need to learn to live that way. Not live in poverty of our spiritual life, but to live to the fullest. Jesus says, I came to give you life more abundantly. Paul says, how can we who have died to sin still live in it? And see, that's the dichotomy that we've got to work through. We've got to say, oh God, forgive me, and do everything we can to walk in this life as sinless as possible. Your life has already been determined as of right now. If you were to die right now, your life has already been determined. You will either go to heaven or you will go to hell. It's that simple. And it's going to be based on whether Jesus is Lord in your life. That's what it's going to be based on. It's going to be based on. Among the customs of this time of days of awe, it is common to seek reconciliation with people you may have wronged during the course of the year. The Talmud maintains that Yom Kippur atones only for sins between man and God. To atone for sins against another person, you must first seek reconciliation with that person, righting the wrongs as committed against them if possible. This is all the belief this is all part of the Jewish custom for these days of awe that we're walking in. Yom Kippur is atonement from me to God, not me to you. But I've got to take care of me to you, or my name will not be written in the right book. Got that? Understand that? Okay. Now, Yom Kippur. It's not only written about in Leviticus 23, there's two other places. One of them is Numbers 29. Numbers 29, verse 7 through 11 says, then on the 10th day of this 7th month, you shall have a holy convocation, again saying the same thing, or church, or assembly, whatever you want to call it. You shall humble yourselves, i.e. fast. You shall not do any work. You shall present a burnt offering to the Lord as a soothing aroma, 1 bull, 1 ram, 7 male lambs, 1 year old, having them without defect. And their grain offering, fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 of an ephah for the bull, 2/10 for 1 ram, and 1/10 of each for the 7 lambs. 1 male goat for a sin offering, besides the sin offering of atonement and the continual burnt offering and its grain offering and their drink offerings. So in other words, these are three offerings above what's normal. There are 3 things going on here. You will humble yourselves, you will have church, and you will not work. You will do no work. Along with that, there are 3 additional sacrifices that have to be made. A burnt offering, which becomes a sweet aroma to the Lord. A meal offering, that is taking certain grains and mixing them with oil and burning them. And then a sin offering, which will be a male goat. And these are in addition to the normal offerings. Now, in Leviticus 16, it gives us a detail of what happens on the Day of Atonement. As a matter of fact, it starts out, and the Lord spoke to Moses after the death of the 2 sons of Aaron. Now, Aaron had 2 sons. As a matter of fact, all of Aaron's sons were priests, but 2 of them decided on their own, well, actually, I think it was only 2 at the time. 2 of them decided on their own that they were going to offer a burnt offering to the Lord the way they wanted to do it, when they wanted to do it. And because of that, and because they've already been taught, hey, this is how it happens, they were wiped out. I think fire hit them, if I remember correctly, and they became crispy critters. That was it. They were gone. And God said, Aaron, do not mourn for these 2 boys. Do not mourn. Interesting. Because they had done what they did, God said, don't you even mourn for them. All right, hold on to that thought, because we got to take our last break, and I'll be right back.